Hello viewers. In this class we'll look on interesting topic about gears, some basic concepts of gears. What is a gear first? Everybody knows that. Gear is a power transmitting device which transmit power from one shaft to another shaft. Probably gear will be having a toothed wheel. One toothed wheel transmits powers to the another toothed wheel. So we can either use to reduce the speed or increase the speed, as well as we can transmit the torque over from one shaft to another shaft. That's the purpose of a gear. We can explain with a very simple animation. Here there are two gears, one with 20 teeth and another with 40 teeth. So obviously smallest number of teeth will be rotating faster and largest number of teeth will be rotating slower. So now here the smallest gear usually will be called as a pinion and largest gear usually will be called as a gear. So gear and pinion pair. So here in this one the smallest teeth is rotating faster and largest teeth is rotating slower. So here gear ratio is 1:2. So 20 teeth is rotating with 40 teeth, gear ratio is 1:2. So either we can use it as a, if you give input motion to the smallest gear, it reduces the speed. If you give input motion to the largest gear, it increases the speed. By this way we can use the gears. Now we'll go with some basic terminologies of the gear. So these are all the various important terminologies of the gear. We'll explain that with a very simple animation. Here you can see two gears. The first important thing is pitch circle. So here we represent it here as pitch circle. Pitch circle is an imaginary circle. So here you can see two gears are in meshing. So at one point if gear stops, it will stop only at the pitch point. It will stop at only pitch point. So the point of contact between two teeth is at only pitch point. So from the pitch point, if you draw a circle throughout the gear, so that is called pitch circle. So from pitch circle, if you measure that to outermost diameter, then that measurement, that length linearly if you measure from pitch circle to the outermost diameter, that is called addendum. And from the same pitch circle, if you measure the distance to the bottommost diameter or root diameter of the gear, that is called dedendum. So this one is addendum, this one is dedendum. So always a gear tooth is having two parts, one is addendum and one is dedendum, and the distance separates, circle separates the addendum and dedendum is called pitch circle. So that is a very important concept in a gear. Now we'll go with a working depth. Working depth is nothing but we'll always see one clearance here. So in this gear we'll be having some clearance. We cannot make the gear to touch up to the end. We need definitely some clearance. Without clearance it is not possible to transfer the power smoothly. So therefore definitely we need some clearance. So working depth is nothing but how much depth it is going inside. So this tooth is going inside up to one particular depth, that is working depth, and the whole depth is the actual depth. So actual depth is not the working depth. So here with some clearance if you add, that is the whole depth. So working depth plus clearance will be giving us the whole depth. So that is the clearance. Now we'll see outermost circle will term that as addendum circle and innermost circle will term that as dedendum circle. So we'll call that as addendum circle radius and dedendum circle radius and clearance radius, clearance circle. So working from the working depth, if you draw an imaginary circle, that is clearance circle. So now the side of the gear tooth will be called as a flank, and this is top land and this is face width. These are all the another important parameters of the gear, and gears usually will be having some fillets on that to avoid some sharp corners that will create some damage while meshing and running. So this one, so here you can see this in this gear there is some fillet over here, some fillet over here. So this is called fillet to smoothen the surfaces. This is about some important concepts and important terminologies that we are going to be used in gears. Without these terminologies we cannot design the gear and we cannot identify the velocity ratios and other concepts in the gears. So all these concepts are very important gear terminologies. Next thing we'll see about some more things about the gear, how a gear can be specified. Usually a gear will be specified in terms of only module. What is module? Module is a definition for pitch circle diameter by number of teeth. It's very simple. So higher the module, gear tooth size will be bigger. So it's nothing but we know what is pitch circle. It's an imaginary circle separating addendum and dedendum. So if we divide pitch circle diameter divided by number of teeth, that will be giving us the module. So module is one of the important specifying method for gear. So if you want to buy even a gear, we need to specify by only module, and pressure angle will look about pressure angle slightly later. So M equal to d by T. So that is very important concept. So another one is circular pitch. If you have data related to circular pitch, we can convert that into the module. So M equal to d by T and circular pitch equal to pi into module. And another important thing is diametral pitch, 1 by module. All these three data are a term relevant to specification of the gear. Either we can specify with a module or with a circular pitch or with a diametral pitch. Now we'll come to the pressure angle. This is another important thing. Pressure angle is also known as the angle of obliquity, which is the angle between the tooth face and gear wheel tangent. It is more precisely the angle at a pitch point between the line of pressure and the plane tangent to the pitch surface. We'll see with one simple animation. Here we'll be having gears with three different pressure angles. Now the red colored line will be called as some line of action. So it is always passing through the pitch point. You can see at pitch point, if you stop here and if I draw a circle from the center of the gear, so and joining with this black dotted line, the angle measured is called nothing but pressure angle. So lower the pressure angle, gear tooth profile will look narrower like this, and increasing the pressure angle, it will be slightly wider and further wider. So now from this one we understand how the pressure angle differentiates the gear tooth profile. So now the ideal pressure angle for any gear system is only 20 degree. 10 degree will not be giving very less pressure, and 30 degree will be giving very high pressure. So in any mechanism related to gear, a gear will be specified only with the two things, module and pressure angle. Even if you want to do any project and want to buy a gear, we need to know what is the module of the gear and what is the pressure angle of the gear. Moreover, if any two gears are in mesh, only if the module of the gear and pressure angle of the gear are same, then only it is possible to mesh. For example, if you have a 2 module gear and 20 degree pressure angle gear, the mating gear also should be having 2 module and 20 degree pressure angle. We cannot mate 2 different pressure angles gear, and we cannot make 2 different modules gear. So that's the important concept of a gear. Now we'll go with further more thing. Line of action. This is one of the important thing in gears. Now we can see this animation. So line of action is nothing but when two gears are in contact, the path or locus of the path which traces from beginning of the contact of the gear to the end of the contact of the gear. Now we can see I will follow one path. So now we'll go with this. Now this gear is going and now it start touching. It start touching and till the end of the contact it goes out. So now if the teeth is going in from the beginning of the contact with the mating teeth till the end of the contact with the mating teeth, what is the path traced? That path is called path of contact. So the line of action is throughout the thing, that is line of action, and path of contact is the from beginning of the contact to the end of the contact, the path in which the gear profile tracing, that is called path of contact. So now in this along this line of action, this is the length of path of contact. Why we need this? Only based on length of path of contact we can identify how many number of pairs of teeth will be in contact in a gear. So that is called contact ratio. Based on the contact ratio, we'll design the gear. So based on the contact ratio only, we'll design the gear and apply the gear suitably. So now we understand what is the path of contact. Furthermore, terms are arc of contact, angle of action, and contact ratio. Arc of contact is nothing but, so if you measure that in linearly, that is path of contact. If they measure that as a arc, so that is called arc of contact. So we can just calculate the arc of contact using path of contact by cos pi equation. And angle of action is nothing but angle turned during the path of contact, angle in which the gear or pinion turned during the path of contact, that is angle of action. If we use the formula for that is arc of contact into 360 by 2 pi r. Here capital R is used. R is nothing but pitch circle radius. If we use capital R, that will be for gear. If you use small r, that will be for pinion. Or if you use radius here, pitch circle radius for gear, if you put, then we have to use pitch circle radius for gear here. So to determine angle of action for pinion, we have to use pitch circle radius for pinion here. So just we have to interchange for gear and pinion, just pitch radius we have to interchange. Now third one is contact ratio. Contact ratio is nothing but at the time how many number of teeth are in contact, that is contact ratio. Formula for that is arc of contact by circular pitch. So using these three equations will determine the basic gear parameters. How many number of teeths are in contact. So these are very important parameters of basics of gear. Now we'll go with one of the important thing, law of gearing. How the two gears are mating. Law of gearing states that the common normal at the point of contact must pass through the pitch point to maintain the constant velocity ratio. That means if two surfaces are in mating, we have to draw a common normal. We have to draw a tangent and we have to draw a normal. And the common normal should be always on the same contact point, that is called pitch point. Then only if it's satisfied, then that curve will be doing gearing. So that curve can be doing gearing. That is law of gearing. Now we'll imagine with a simple sketch. Now imagine this is one surface and this is another surface, and this is the center of rotation for this surface O1 and this is center of rotation O2. And imagine this is the tangent and this line is the normal. Now if we imagine that this is rotating with angular velocity omega 1 and this is rotating with angular velocity omega 2 with an inclination angle, and point of contact is A. So from here to here is the center of point of contact, and from here to here from the center to the point of contact on the same point of contact, and this is the normal. So normal is passing through the point. So now imagine that this angle is beta and this angle is alpha. Now here from O1 to point A, this is having angular velocity omega 1 and a perpendicular line drop is VA1. Let us imagine that for this omega 1, this is the linear velocity VA1. We know that V equal to omega into R. So this distance into omega will be giving us V equal to omega into R. Similarly, for second gear, from this distance we drop a perpendicular, that is VA2. So from here and for this line and this line must be perpendicular. So we know that omega 2 equal to similarly VA2 into R. R is nothing but this distance. So now based on this we know we have the equation that VA1 into cos alpha will be equal to VA2 into cos beta. So by applying some trigonometric equation we will be getting omega 1 by omega 2 will be equal to O2 by B into O1 by C. So this distance into this distance and this distance, that will be again equal to O2 by A into O1 by A. So now this proves that this will be running with a constant velocity. So once at the pitch point it is running with a constant velocity, so always it will be meeting at only one point. So therefore it's proved that the common normal to the point of contact must always lie in the same point, and that is called pitch point. So this is about law of gearing. Based on law of gearing, we identify that only two curves that can satisfy the law of gearing. One is involute curve, another one is cycloidal curve. Now we will see how the involute gears and how the cycloid gears are there. Imagine that this is involute. Involute is whenever we have a rope surrounded a drum or circle, and if we start unwound, the path generated is called involute. So now we can imagine this is the involute. So this is the animation for a involute gear, and this is the actual involute gear. So we will be seeing that. So this path traced is like unwounding a wire from a drum or barrel. So this green colored one is called base circle. From the which circle it starts, that is called base circle. So base circle, from base circle we have arrived on involute gear here. We know second one is cycloid. Cycloid is nothing but the path traced by a circle over a straight line or a curve. So here the path traced by the circle. This circle is tracing the path on the another curve. So this is called cycloid. So cycloidal gears, this is the example for a cycloid gear. So usually cycloidal gear will be having a very curved surface over here, unlike involute gear. So irrespective of some advantages of cycloidal gear, we prefer only involute gears. Almost whatever we are using, 99% of the gears are involute gears because of simplicity of manufacturing. Even though we have certain advantages in cycloid, but cycloid is having the main drawback, so that cycloidal cannot be, if one center distance between two gears changes, cycloidal will be having more wear and it cannot run properly, whereas that is not in the case of involute. Involute having one drawback, that is called interference between two gear teeth. We'll discuss about interference in later classes. Now this is about involute gears and cycloidal gears. Now we'll go with this, some classification of gears. How gears are classified? There are various types of gears, among which a few classifications we'll look at here. Parallel axis gear. Whenever two mating shafts are having a parallel axis, that is called parallel axis gear. For example, spur gear. In spur gear, the gear tooth and axis must be straight. So this is called parallel axis gear. One of the parallel axis gear is spur gear. And helical gear. Whenever the tooth is inclined with the axis, that is called helical gear, but the axis remains same. Axis remains parallel. This axis and this axis remains parallel. So this is helical gear. And next one is herringbone gear. This is same helical gear, but one is along LH and another one is along RH. The same gear, if you cut LH side and RH side, left hand side and right hand side helix, then it is called herringbone gears. There are two types of gears in herringbone. One is herringbone, one is double helical. If you have some groove provided like this inside, that is called herringbone. If you don't provide any groove over here, then that is called double helical gear. So among parallel axis gear, we have three types: spur gear, helical gear and herringbone gears. Subsequently, we classify that as intersecting axis gear. Whenever two axes gets intersect, axis of the shaft and axis of the shaft gets intersect, so that type of gears are called intersecting axis gear. One of the such type is bevel gears with straight teeth. So bevel gear transmit power from one shaft to another shaft, which is at different angle or at 90 degree. So these two axis gets intersect. So this type of gears is called bevel gear. And next is helical bevel gear or spiral bevel gear. So now the same bevel gear, if we are having a helical tooth over it, helical tooth here and helical tooth here, that is called spiral bevel gear or helical bevel gear. That is also another intersecting axis gear. Next is non-parallel, non-intersecting axis gear. One of the example for that one is hypoid gear. Here a bevel-like gear will be there at the bottom, and here thread-like structure is there. So here there is no axis intersecting as well as no axis are parallel. Axis between these two are non-parallel and non-intersecting. Such a gear called hypoid gear. This is called non-parallel, non-intersecting axis gear. Few more types are there. Rack and pinion gear. Whenever the gear is transmit motion on the straight line along a rack, that is called rack and pinion gear. And worm wheel. Worm and worm wheel is used to transmit power when velocity ratio is very higher, or transmit power to very faster speed to very slower speed, then we have to use worm gear, and in many machines we are using that. So here worm gear is a gear will be there with some throat. Here that will be cut like this. Here if you see the external diameter of this gear, a throat will be cut on that. On the throat, a similar structure like threaded like structure will be provided. The threaded like structure is called worm. Since it looks like a worm, when it is running it looks like a worm, that's why it is called as worm, and this gear is called a worm wheel. This is worm and worm wheel arrangement. And in subsequent class we will study more about gears, and this is about basics of gears. And thank you. If you like this video, you can subscribe.